is a nightmare. Man, that's the way it seems. Life is a nightmare.
Welcome to Today in Horrible History, your daily moment of historical misfortune. For February 4th, 2022, we head back to February 4th, 1703. On that date, the 47 Ronin committed ritual suicide following a successful revenge attack on the man who had their master killed. The how and why of that requires explaining a number of aspects of Japanese society in the feudal period. Feudal Japan dates from the 12th century and ran for nearly 700 years. The society had many parallels to feudal Europe, with regional warlords and court officials at the top, a class of knights who served them on and off near the top, and most people as valueless peasants who did all the work at the bottom. The knights were known as samurai, a familiar enough word in English. Less well known to English speakers is that there were a subset of samurai known as the Ronin, samurai who'd had masters but either fell out of favor with them and were dismissed, or whose masters had died. These men often roamed the countryside looking for new employment with regional warlords, or would just steal things, threaten peasants, and live as a general nuisance to society. Samurai lived by a formal code of honor called bushido, a concept which still reverberates in Japanese society today. It's important to note that this code was for how samurai should treat each other and feudal lords, but not the general population. Peasants lived in fear of samurai with good reason. It was legal and expected for samurai to practice chujijiri, literally crossroads killing, a retroactively hilarious habit of jumping out at strangers and attacking them in order to keep their fighting skills sharpened, quote-unquote. We can imagine how these training sessions went, with a trained killer beating the crap out of random passerby who had no weapons and who really didn't have the social standing to fight back. For a period of roughly 200 years, samurai were pretty much allowed just to kill any peasant they came across. In any event, in 1702, a feudal lord named Asago Naganori assaulted a court official named Kira Yoshinaka. Kira cited the Bushido and forced Asago to commit ritual suicide for this act. You see, there was a practice of saving honor for oneself and one's clan by committing public ritual suicide. This is called seppuku, although it's also known as harakiri. Many Americans have come to mispronounce harakiri as Harry Carey, who was in fact for decades the voice of Chicago Cubs broadcasts. Don't make that mistake. The shamed subject was expected to ceremonially plunge a short sword into their belly, drawing it across from left to right. If done deeply enough, this should sever the abdominal aorta and cause death from blood loss. In practice, shoving a blade into your abdomen and severing that artery is something of a challenge, which is probably why the final portion of the ceremony is having a trusted swordsman thwack your head off with a longsword. Among upper classes of Japanese society, particularly among military officers, seppuku continued as an acceptable response to failure through and after World War II. Now that we know that, the rest of this story makes sense. With Kira forcing Asago to take his life for the assault, his 47 samurai became masterless Ronin. They decided to take the honorable route and avenge their former master by killing Kira, even though they knew that this would probably result in an expectation that they then would have to commit ritual suicide for having killed someone above their social status. The group waited 14 months until Kira literally let his guard down at his compound. They attacked, they won, and after he refused to commit ritual suicide in front of them, they cut his head off. They then paraded the head through the streets to, we are told, the delight of onlookers who, and this is how I see it phrased, offered them refreshments. Refreshments! Delightful! This could have been a reaction to their honorable path, but I'm guessing people might also have been terrified by 47 samurai who just cut somebody's head off, marching down their street with it, and knowing that they could go on a killing spree with impunity at any moment. In any event, Shortly after, 46 of the 47 were then required by local authorities to commit seppuku themselves, which happened on this date. The 47th, Terasaka Kichiamon, was apparently pardoned by a local warlord owing to his youth, and he died at the age of 87. He was buried along with his comrades at a Buddhist temple you can visit today. It's famous in Japanese society. The headstones are there. You can go visit. And in fact, the 47 Ronin tale is one of the most popular in traditional Japanese culture. Versions are retold by the nation's traditional arts, including kabuki and bunraku, puppet theater. Proving you can't please everyone, a famous criticism of the Bushido ethics of the attack was written by samurai-turned-Buddhist monk Yamamoto Tsumetomo, who posed a question famous to the Japanese. What if, 9 months after Asano's death, Kira had died of an illness? In other words, the priority of the 47 should have been honor and not success. It was more important to attack quickly than to wait the strategic 14 months and ensure victory. Everyone's a critic. Be sure to like this video, speaking of criticism, and subscribe to the channel for more Today in Horrible History. Remember that after a brief visit, the rest of your day can only seem better in comparison.
Life is a nightmare, and that's the way it seems. Life is a nightmare.